2, 1. Fragments of silicon, the only natural predator of the inanimate carbon rod.
And welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Greetings if this is your first time tuning in. We had a whole bunch of subs recently. Anyway, I'm your host, Adam, and joining me is, for lack of a better name, the regular crew. Galix.
I object to the implication that I am in any way regular.
We'll take that up under advisement. Petty Fan.
Yo.
Ogre.
So, yo ho ho, I shouldn't take a bite of gum gum? Damn it.
And Twilight.
Hello.
Alright, well, let's get to the news. Ogre, why don't you start us out this week?
It is cold because winter came back.
It's been cold here, too.
It disappeared on about Friday. Friday was actually in the 50s or so. And then it became cold again, and then snow came in Monday, which probably pissed off kids because they were already off. It's always the worst thing when you just get a good snow day, but it's on a day you already have off anyway.
And the roads are cleared by the morning.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It depends if you've already used your snow days or not, you know.
That too. There was there was one time, I think it had to be late 90s or something, we had a bad snowstorm, and we were out for 2 extra weeks after the holiday break, so...
I've been there,
like
done that.
Off of school, and we had to make up for it, but, let's see. Recordings are going fine. They're a little bit delayed because of the snow.
Well, how does it feel to be doing non-Doom now?
That's alright. I mean, Doom's always fun. I always have it, so I can go back to it.
Sure
so
enough.
It's not like I'm starved for anything, but...
Well, it's more, you guys been working on Doom for like 3-4 months now?
We may have to work on that. I feel like these games are lasting a little longer than they should.
I'm like, I don't know what you could do. The only way
the only way we could do it is we bump up the video time, but we're trying to keep it, like, average run time for a television show, like 22, 25 minutes or so, because after that, people's attention span... Ooh, butterfly.
Yeah. Well, it's like the only other thing I can think of is you do the multiple parts thing again.
Yeah.
So, pick your poison, I guess.
Let's see. Yeah, no, everything's going fine. Still working on his new computer, though, but busy with busyness. Getting a new house and all that.
You said he'd have that by what? Late February?
Well, the deal's got to be closed by January. He's got to get it livable by the end of February, because I think that's when the lease goes up for their apartment, so...
Livable?
Yeah. Well, just because somebody's selling a house doesn't mean they have it up to code for them to be livable.
Fair enough.
They should, because then that's just blatantly screwing you out of your money, but... Other than that, everything's going fine except for 2 blasted goddamn %, because I accidentally killed Fug.
Yes.
Petty died in the most fucking hilarious way ever. That was just... I did not know you could have that much momentum, but I'm gonna save that for your section, because that was just... Oh my god, that
One
made
of
my
those I
day.
wish I was recording could insert a Wilhelm scream.
You should have. if you could have. But anyway, that's pretty much it for my news. So
All right. Galix, you're up.
Well, there was a significant quantity of snow today. We got about 5 inches. My office was actually not closed, but with the rental and recent memory of a traffic accident, and also knowing that the roof was going to need to be cleaned off, and not wanting to have any temptation to go out after work and then maybe be late back, I took the day off. So, unfortunately, whenever I do that for snow clearing purposes, it's not as fun or relaxing as I wish it would be. But there's that. Let's see. Haven't had too much else going on recently. There was a Splatfest in Splatoon 2 this past weekend that I made it to King in like literally the last 5 minutes. So there was not time for another match. And I was on Team Comedy, so that was good because Team Comedy won.
Hooray for winning.
Apparently action movies were more popular, but comedy was better fighters. Cause go figure.
That I really wish they'd fix that, because like one of the big problems I remember with Splatoon 1 is if you were on the larger team, you'd basically get matches with your same team, and those are basically, worthless.
They fixed that somewhat. And the actually teams were pretty close this time. The popularity was like within like 4%, I think. I could be misremembering, but I think they did a lot of. There was a lot of improvement made by making it just which side won the most solo battles and which side won the most team battles. Solo battles being one where it's 4 randos together, not like literal one-on-one. Because that way the margin was where they could never get the margin right in the first game, because the win percentage got multiplied or something. Yeah, other than that, I have not had a whole ton going on video game wise, so I will pass before I start rambling.
Right. Twilight, you're
Well, like everybody else, we've had snow, and yesterday was especially snowy. We got buried yesterday, and pretty much had to leave my car at work and ride home with my uncle because I have a hill to cross, and my car's a 2-wheel drive, and his is a 4-wheel drive, and the hill was kind of slick. And I think we was able to get across safely. And thankfully I didn't have to work today, so that was good. And me and some friends of mine have also been working on getting a pen and paper, tabletop RPG game going.
Oh man, what system?
It's a homebrewed system. It's based off of D&D's 5th edition rules, though, apparently.
Okay, yeah, 5th edition is pretty customizable.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been test running it. A few times. Me and the friend of mine who's made it, and it seems we got everything ready. We just had to get everybody together, and we were supposed to get that started last night, but plans going the way of that. So we're hoping for Saturday. And besides that, I've been playing the games for Sunday. Been really enjoying 9 Parchments so far. And the bridge building game has also been pretty fun too. And that's about it for me.
well. Pettyfan, you're up then.
Oh, let's see. For some reason, I've been getting a bunch of spam calls about my student loan from some people who I'm pretty sure they're trying to scam me. So that's fun because it's a new number every time, so I can't just block it. So, hooray for number spoofing.
Have they left messages?
They have, but sometimes they don't. So,
Well, I mean, what do the messages say?
something about like, where is it? Basically, we can, release you from your student loan debt or something like that.
Oh, that's not suspicious at all.
Yeah. And like they want me to call them back and give them my social security number. And it's like, yeah, no.
No, don't do that.
Oh yeah, I know
Yeah.
better than that. I might have been born
Yeah.
at night, but it sure in hell wasn't last night. Yeah, fun note, kids. If someone calls wanting you to call them back with social security number, don't do it.
Big red flag.
Yeah, if they need that information, they should already have it if they're from like the actual student loan holder.
Hi, this is PayPal. We need you to log in so we can manage some funds on your account. Sure, my password is go fuck yourself, you dumbass.
My spam folder has caught those emails.
Yeah, Nigerian princes.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. Something I forgot to mention last week is I'm gonna need to go in for a upper GI to hopefully figure out why I've been having acid reflux so much. So that's gonna be fun. Luckily, it's during the off season, so it won't affect the show at all.
Clearly, you just need to stop drinking all that acid.
I played in the Dragon Ball Fighters beta, and I got an hour of footage for that, just in case my computer doesn't want to run the PC version for whatever reason, or like stream it at the same time. I have backup.
Yeah. I mean, we're still on for that interview, but I'll check again next week just to make sure.
We're still on, but it's better to have footage on hand than be like, oh god, I can't stream this, we have a problem.
Yep.
Because it can sit forever on YouTube for all I care. Somebody will find my reprehensible, gameplay and laugh at it, maybe. I'm still kind of out of practice when it comes to artworks, or, Arcs fighters, because, oh god, the last Blaze Blue was very underwhelming. Aside from that, last night in Final Fantasy XIV we were raiding. Oh god, we are so close to killing Neo. It's not even funny. Like, why game? Why?
Neo X Death still?
Yes. Neo X.
We should have had him. Just
if I didn't need to use Passage of Arms, we would have had him, or it would have been a 1% wipe. But yeah, so hopefully we will have him killed either Thursday, Saturday, or next Tuesday.
One of those days.
Yeah. Hopefully. Also, isn't it the 19th? We have the new live letter about the next patch?
Yeah, just went out today. Said the 19th, like, oh my god, at 3 Pacific Standard Time. 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
I'll be waiting for Mr. Happy's video with, about the translated stuff, because, no.
Yeah, it's like at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, I'll be asleep then. Let's see, aside from that, I think that's everything.
All right, I guess it's my go. Yeah, it's been cold here too. And keep in mind, I live in Florida, so I'm not really used to.
Oh no, down around freezing, we don't know what to do.
It's not that bad because it's not been snowing, but
if it was down around freezing, they'd have a real problem because they use wet well fire hydrants. They would explode.
Well, it's gotten pretty cold. I saw my breath this morning. It usually doesn't get that cold, down here. So, if we had snow, then I think the apocalypse would be happening. Because once again, as I mentioned last time it got this cold, there's no infrastructure to deal with snow down here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is
And
true.
people don't have much practice, which is just as important.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends on who you're talking about, since a lot of people are transplants from up north. You know, we call them snowbirds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
It's
also,
not-
like, snow tires
Yeah.
aren't required down there, are they?
Most places don't even sell snow tires.
Oh boy. So yeah, if you
Why
actually
would
get yeah, well, like snow or all weather tires, but yeah, it's like if you guys get snow, that's a problem. That's a big
Yeah.
problem.
Woohoo!
Yeah, no
Look at that pavement fly.
Yeah, no, no shit. There's a lot of problems that would come with, a snowfall that's stuck around here.
Yeah, it's not as much as needing to get, plows or salt or whatever. It's your cars are not equipped for snow. You will slide.
Oh yeah, and maybe it's not so much the transplants, but the native people. Last time it snowed around here was 1977. Not even kidding. So, yeah, there would be accidents. Let's just say
More than usual.
quite. Anyway, honestly, there's not that much in the way of news. My way. Been dealing with a lot of games this week, like 4 of them. Like, which is time consuming. Like, haven't managed to put it into some of the games that I've wanted to so far, but
Have
there's
you at
still
least
half a week left.
tried 9 parchments to make sure it works?
Yeah, I've done that. I actually got a bit way into the game, but yeah, that's working. We will be able to stream that on Friday.
Oh, boy.
More on that at the bottom of the show. Anyway, I think that'll about do it for news. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week, once again, is Joe Tringali of Digital Continue.
Hey guys,
Hey, how you doing?
doing good. How about you guys?
We're managing, just trying to keep warm.
Yeah, we avoided the snow today in New York, so but we definitely got it last week.
Indeed, I can imagine. Like, I remember the snow in New York, but at any rate, so last time we had you on the program, you were doing a remake or reimagining or whatever they call it for Locke's Quest, and now you're doing your first original title called Next Up Hero.
Yep, that's right.
Right. So I suppose we should start with what is this game?
So I guess the best way to describe it is it's sort of like a action RPG roguelike. So the sort of the what's the intro? The premise of the game is one at a time. Everybody plays these ventures, and then you die, and then the next person to like go into the venture basically brings you back as like a AI follower. And so you can use other players as crafting material. They can follow you around as helpers. So it's sort of like the community working together to like advance these ventures and eventually beat the boss.
That's certainly a unique take on this whole endeavor. Like, and how did you come up with this concept?
I don't know, like I really wanted to do something that was sort of like cooperative, but not cooperative in the way that most other games are, whereas like real-time cooperative. So I thought of doing something with like an asynchronous cooperative component. Something where everybody could kind of participate, but you didn't necessarily need to be like online at the same time or join like a party. Like you basically can play one at a time, and you'll see sort of the progress of the community. Everybody's echoes is what we call sort of the player remains in these ventures, and then bring them back, and they sort of can fight alongside you in spirit.
Like I said, it's like I don't want to say this is like the first time I've ever encountered an asynchronous kind of roguelike or action RPG or anything like that, but it's certainly not very common.
No, I mean, I don't think. I mean, I couldn't find. I mean, Dark Souls has some um,
Hmm.
elements with where you could see people's remains and stuff, but not done in this way that I've ever seen.
Like, and Dark Souls also kind of works differently than this. You
Yeah.
know, that's a kind of an either or. Like, yeah, you could help, but you could also not help and harm the player.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, anyway, let's see. So, what exactly is a venture?
So adventure is kind of a it's like a game session. So anybody has the ability to start a venture. You choose like your your biome, which is your environment. You choose the difficulty, which sort of determines like the difficulty of the enemies that spawn. You choose the length. Um, so the length matters in that the players have the ability to sort of, instead of kill a boss, like push a boss. And so pushing a boss actually extends the venture. And so the longer the venture is to start, sort of like each time it gets extended, it goes on longer and longer. And so if you do a like an epic session, it's like 110 levels to start. And so the ventures are like comprised of levels, and so each level is basically like a room in a roguelike. You go through, take out all the enemies, and then you go to like the next level.
And is pushing a boss literal, or is that just a term you're using?
It's a term. It's basically you get it down. The community basically deals damage to the boss, and it sort of saves over time. And so, sort of the person that gets in to fight the boss when it's low on health, and they deliver like the killing blow, they can either choose to kill it, which will end the venture, or they can choose to push it, which essentially just kind of like resets their health and sends them however long. It creates a whole bunch more levels for the venture. And so the rewards keep going up as long as as far as sort of the players push it.
Like, and is this all procedurally generated?
The levels themselves are partially procedurally generated. Like we build pieces and then we sort of put those pieces together.
Hmm. Like, I suppose another way of putting it is, will the player eventually have the ability to put in the monsters, put in the treasures? How much customization are we going to see in this game?
Right now, the player is able to sort of choose the difficulty. They're able to choose to invest some of their currency to generate the rare enemies. And so enemies in the game is sort of one of your ways to progress. They drop these tokens, and the tokens basically unlock the enemy's ability that you can equip to your character. And so there's rare versions of each of the enemies, and so those abilities are a lot stronger. And so normally rare enemies are just kind of like a random chance of appearing, but you can actually invest, your money into a session to increase the chances of rare enemies spawning.
Certainly interesting. And what sorts of rewards do you get for besting these rare enemies?
So rare enemies will drop treasure chests on occasion. They'll drop the rare enemy tokens, prestige. So basically it's about encountering the rare enemies, collecting the tokens, and then going back and unlocking and leveling up their abilities.
And I suppose another question I have is, what does progression mean in a meta sense? Like, what does it mean to move forward, like beyond going through the dungeons and leveling up and all that? It's like, what does plot progression look like?
So the plot progression, there's 20 account levels, and 13 of them have like story conversations. At the end of the 13th account level, you unlock the ending. Story is very light. We're sort of establishing this game as sort of the first game in a new IP, but it's definitely not like a story focused game. So the progression is actually collecting what we call grand tokens, and so grand tokens drop from treasure chests. They mainly drop from completing ventures, and so if you participate in a venture that gets beaten, you get rewards mailed to you. And so sometimes, some of those rewards are grand tokens, and so grand tokens are kind of like entry. They're like an entry fee into we call the champion trial. And so the champion trial is a handcrafted sort of one-off community-based adventure. And because it's never been up before, there's no answers on the internet of how to solve it. And so basically, the community is going to be solving it in real time. And then anybody that wants to participate, each play they have to basically spend one of these grand tokens. And so basically, there's community puzzles. There's things that the community is going to need to do like together. There's individual challenges. It's sort of this adventure that everybody will go through, and then once they go through and beat it, that'll be sort of the end. And so we plan on like unveiling more of these champion trials like as the game goes live.
Indeed. And is that Champions game going to stay the same, or is it going to change?
No, it's always going to be different.
Makes sense. Keeps things fresh, so that there won't be those guides. All right. So, what is the story of Next Up Heroes? Like, what's going on here? Who are your characters and whatnot?
So you're actually playing the premise behind the universe of Next Up Here. It's called the Spoken World, and it's essentially a universe that's built around song. It's built around like speaking things. So they're these two graduates of the academy are sort of take like their senior trip, I guess would be a good way to explain it, to these islands that have a lot of history in the world. And so at school they were taught that like how they could summon heroes by singing them. And so basically that's what they do, and then through doing this they sort of discover that there's more than meets the eye in this location.
Indeed. And I presume that your heroes are based off of song.
Yeah, so the heroes are they're based off of song, and so actually like the two actual real characters in the game, you don't control them. No, basically they're in the background. They're the ones that are sort of singing all these heroes to life, and you play as these sort of like these these song creations, and so they're all essentially like historical figures. They're fantastic, like mythical figures. It can be pretty much anything in the universe because it's actually sung into existence.
And how many of these heroes are there in the game?
So there's 9 right now, and each hero has a prestige version, which has a extra ability, and we're gonna keep adding heroes for as long as we support the game.
And what kind of abilities do each of these heroes have? And why would someone favor one over the other? Like, do they have different play styles, or are they interchangeable?
Yeah, no, they all have different play styles. We tried to take sort of like an interesting approach to some of the different archetypes. There's like an engineer character with turrets and a bomb wing, which you charge up and basically aim in the direction of the enemies. There's a character that has like melee and ranged. They throw their shield, but they also have like a melee attack. We have an area effect character. She has a drum, and so basically she has a special attack where she hits the drum and sucks in all the enemies, and then sort of like punts them out like a rhythm mini game. We have a traditional gunslinger. We have let's see, we have sort of like a heavy, like a rocket launcher character. There's a good amount of character variety, and they all play differently. Some of them play very differently than others. Some of them, you might be familiar if you play those two characters.
Yeah, I've played a number of them so far, and some of them feel more familiar than others. Let's just say. Some of them feel very unique, like the boomerang wielder. Was pretty interesting.
Rogue is fun.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to the ventures. So and you mentioned biomes. So what kind of terrains are available for this game currently?
So right now there's a lava, ice, and forest. Um, we have plans to, right now there's certain unique enemies that are themed to certain biomes, but we have plans to sort of, further customize the biomes with, like just environmental sort of um, puzzles and tiles and stuff.
I suppose taking that into consideration, is there an elemental system like ice being vulnerable to fire and that kind of thing?
No, but each of the echoes and the heroes is themed to a house, and so there's three houses in the game as part of the lore, and so the recipes for they're ancients. They're essentially like your powerful summons that you get, and the recipes for those are based on the echoes that you have following you. And so each of those has like a unique recipe of like one echo from one house, one from another, two from one, three from another. And so you'll definitely want to kind of manage the different combinations of echoes that you collect.
Right. And these ancients, are they? How many of those are? Do you unlock those?
You have them from the start. You're able to expand how many you can equip in your loadout up to 6, and I think there's 10 of them in right now, so there's a good amount. And then we also have artifacts, which are sort of like consumable versions of the ancients. They're like items, and you get those from beating levels, treasure chests, rare enemies, and those provide you with like a stat boost for one specific venture. And so as long as you're alive in a certain venture, you'll have extra damage, extra defense, extra speed, etc.
Sounds good. And I know you mentioned that this is currently like asynchronous multiplayer, but do you see a point where there will eventually be like like 4 players can play a venture at any point during the development process?
So we do have like a light co-op right now, and so if somebody else is playing a venture and you select it, you can watch them. You can also heal them, and then you can jump in, and if they have any echoes following you, you can jump in and control one of those echoes. And so it's not quite as strong as a like a full hero, but you can definitely help and sort of do like a light co-op. I'd say for consoles, like couch multiplayer is possible. You know, but I don't know. It's not in at least the immediate roadmap to do like a full, real multiplayer co-op mode.
I'm like, well, I'd imagine it would be quite intensive, judging from other people we've talked to, who've done the multiplayer thing in various um, forums. Like, there are some people who do the local only because the online is so um, precise.
Yeah, I mean, it requires a lot of supporting systems too. Like, it's not. I mean, technically, getting like like online multiplayer up with a lot of the middleware that's out today isn't so hard. It's just you need to do matchmaking. You need to create good interfaces. Like, you need to basically make it so that like people can find their friends. It's like there's just all these just like ancillary systems that like are required to have like a good multiplayer experience. It takes time.
Indeed. And right, so how long has this game been in development for?
Almost exactly a year. I think we started in January of 17.
And along those lines, how many people are working on it?
There's 11 of us.
Mm-hmm. Is that permanent, or is that like permanent plus contractors?
Um, that's I'd say permanent. Contractor, like we have some contractors, but at least for most of the project, they were working on this project only.
And what led to the decision to launch this in early access?
I mean, it's like you said before, it's kind of a unique idea, and so we wanted to sort of get people's take on it. Sort of see, get feedback on the mechanics, get feedback on the sort of like the game balance. There's a lot of good information you can get from from early access. Like we have a pretty engaged community in Discord, and people providing a lot of good feedback, bugs and everything so far. So.
Hmm. And I suppose the pertinent question to answer here is how much of the game would you say is available right now, and how much would you say still needs to be made?
I mean, I think we've moved on now from to making sort of like more content, and so the content that's there. I mean, it's we consider it sort of done, in terms of like being engaging and being something that like people can like provide feedback on. Like it's not perfect, like still needs some polish. But yeah, we've moved on to the first champion trial, and hopefully we'll be launching that really soon, and then the next set of characters and enemies and abilities and agents.
Hmm. And do you have a current plan as to how long you're going to be in early access and reach
Yeah,
full release?
I think we're gonna launch probably around April,
Mhm.
maybe a little bit after. We'll be launching on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Hmm. And I suppose now that you bring those consoles up, how is development split here? Obviously, I assume that the PC's going first, but are the console versions in development right now, or are those waiting until after this PC release?
No, they're in development. Yeah, I mean console takes time, so we've been sort of working on some stuff for the last month or two. So yeah, they're well on their way. It's runs on all the consoles, so it's just a matter of going through and making all the cert changes and testing and every platform sort of has its unique quirks.
Of course. Given the fact that it's going to be appearing on four different, or at least 4 to 7, I suppose. Is this game just Windows only, or are you going to have Mac and Linux support?
We'll have Mac support and hopefully Linux support.
So anyway, 4 to 7 systems. Their Unity game.
Yes.
Not surprising. That's not a bad or a good thing. It's just we have a lot of people who work in Unity. Anyway, so you mentioned this game is releasing on the Nintendo Switch as well as the other consoles. Is it going to run? Is it going to perform at the same level as the like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions?
It should. Nothing that we've seen so far has indicated otherwise.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, because this is a like 2D action RPG thing, and not it doesn't look especially taxing. And I suppose on the flip side of that is, are you looking into PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X support?
I'd imagine it'll. I mean, I don't. I mean, that's a good question. I don't. I know some of our art is 4K, but I'm not sure if all of it is. So we'll have to see. It's not the type of game that I think highlights the PS
No,
Pro or.
I do get that. It's just there are people who will ask about that. If every game has 4K support,
Yeah.
whether or not it actually needs it.
Yeah.
But and what kind of frame rate are you targeting for the consoles?
I want to say we're locked at 30, but I don't know if that's just for now for development or if that's the plan. So I think we'll see. I mean, it's like any dev. It's like if you can get consistent 60, you go 60. But if it's better to have consistent 30 than to dip to set it at 60 and then dip.
Right, right.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'll see if my colleagues have any questions about the game.
So the heroes, are they based like actual, legendary heroes from our world, or are they all just purely in this fantasy?
They're all in from the fantasy world, the spoken world.
Uh, there was one more question that I had and I totally forgot.
Okay, let's switch over to Galax here, see if he has anything while you jostle your memory.
I don't have much, although it does look pretty interesting. You said you were going to keep trying to add more new heroes and stuff. Are you concerned about like running out of ways to make them meaningfully distinct, or were you planning on having heroes that are pretty similar but with a couple of noticeable differences? Or
Um, I can speak to the next three heroes that we have sort of in the plate, and they're all unique. I mean, eventually you get to a point where you probably start to have heroes that are somewhat similar, but I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do.
okay.
Oh, right. Will this game always require internet connection, or will it like have like random heroes strewn about if you're offline?
It requires a internet connection.
All right.
But mostly it's not like you're not connecting to a server anywhere to play the game. It's just for verification and to like sync up with everything.
Yeah.
But the game itself is, you could probably get disconnected and be okay like for a little bit, but you can't play the game like offline.
Right. Right.
And how much is the game going for currently, and is that going to stay that way, or will it increase when it gets out of early access?
The early access discount is a little strange because we had a beta, and so anybody that participated in the beta gets the game for 50% off until the end of January. And but for the rest of early access, I want to say it's 15% or 20% off, and then the regular price will be $19.99 when it launches.
Sounds sounds about a fair bit of pricing. Uh, right. So this game is being published by Aspire,
Yep.
correct?
Correct.
How did you hook up with them?
I knew Ted, their president from the days at Fifth Cell. So when I started Digital Continue, we just reconnected just to kind of see what they were up to, and they've been very active in publishing indie games, and so they really like the title, and they really like them as a publisher. So it's good match.
Yeah, they just released Inner Space.
Yep, did.
Which we just did a review. We were supposed to talk to Polyknight last week, but they got a bit busy.
Yeah. Okay.
Launching a game and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's crazy times.
Yeah. And right, if there are no more questions, I think we're about done here. Okay.
I think I'm good.
I look forward to seeing a little bit more about it, even though I'm not 100% sure how much time I'll have to devote to a game that's always online. Although you did say it's coming to the Switch, so I might see if I can grab it on that.
Cool.
From what I've seen so far, like what I see, I don't have any questions though, but looks fun.
Cool.
All right then, Joe, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us this week. The game looks really good. It's been I've played about an hour and a half of it. It's pretty fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it in its completed state, and we'll probably review it when that happens. Right. So the game is Next Up Hero. It's in Steam Early Access, currently going for $16.99. That's 15% off. It will go to $19.99 once it exits Early Access, and it will be available for the PC, Switch, PS4 and Xbox One. Maybe Mac and Linux, and Macintosh, maybe Linux down the line. And keep an eye out for it on your platform of choice. Petty Fan, play us to the next section.
Thanks a lot, guys.
No problem. All right. So welcome to the topic of discussion. And yeah, all of a sudden we have a lot to talk about this week.
I remember Sunday we were lamenting we got nothing to talk about. Today rolls around, oh god, we have all the things.
Yeah, well, it's all the things Nintendo because, yeah, Nintendo has all the news. Yeah, I'm like, so where to start? I mean, we got last week's Nintendo Direct Mini, which happened like the day after our last broadcast. So.
Because of course, yeah.
Yeah, it just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like if it was more than 15 minutes, we probably would have streamed it, but
Yeah.
I mean, it was a mini, and that's probably why they felt okay with not giving warning. But that's still,
yeah, it was still a lot of information packed into 15 minutes.
I was glad some of that information included concrete release dates for some of the upcoming games that had been promised this year.
Yeah. So that, of course, touched off speculation that, another Nintendo Direct was incoming. And it looks like we got the answer to that, just not in the way anyone thought. Like, for those who haven't heard the news, as the time of streaming, the time of recording here, we're just a few hours out from Nintendo's formal unveiling of this thing called the Labo. The Nintendo Labo.
Labo is Japanese for lab.
Like, I'm not surprised about that because it's got yo.
Yeah.
It's like, for some reason, Japanese words have to end in a vowel.
Well, it is the next. Well, yeah, it's because of Japanese. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, it's like, so I guess we'll start with the Labo since it's, fresh, very fresh in everyone's minds.
So fresh it hasn't formally announced yet.
Well,
the website's up.
I'm like, okay, so the Nintendo Labo is, I hesitate to use the word peak Nintendo, but it's
very Nintendo. Yeah.
I'm like, it's at least the most Nintendo thing I've seen since the Wii era.
Which, if it reminds you of the Wii, that's probably not an accident.
No. This is definitely the kind of cracked out idea that only Nintendo could come up. I've seen people going, well, if Sony or Microsoft had come up with this, I'm like, Microsoft and Sony would never have come up with the Labo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you made a joke, I'm pretty sure they would have said something about like, wait, what, cardboard? And,
like,
cardboard is.
Once again, this idea is not without precedent in tech, but Nintendo's taking it and saying, what if we have children, build things out of cardboard?
And this is also I would say probably the best implementation so far of all of the technology they built into the Joy-Cons, because most things haven't done much with that aside from 1-2 Switch, which everyone agrees was way too small. So this is really using the IR camera on the right Joy-Con and all of the motion. And I mean, there's literally one of the models of this is using the HD Rumble to control a remote. They call it a remote control car, but it's more like one of those little vibrating insect toys that they make.
Right. I think they called it a bug.
Yeah, where you could literally, by modulating the rumble in the thing, you could like control it like an RC car. So
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's part of one of two what they call toy cons.
Because of
You know,
course.
well,
yeah,
the toy cons are the cardboard stuff mostly,
yeah.
I think. But yeah.
Well, the toy cons are the cardboard packs,
Mhm.
and there's two of them. Like there's this variety pack, which is a whole bunch of different cardboard devices, like a fish. There was a fishing rod. There was a camera. There was a whole bunch of stuff.
There's a
there.
piano, like a
Yeah, the
functional
piano.
mini piano.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah.
as someone who's really into engineering, I'm interested to see how these things actually work. Like I know it's not for kids, but like part of me is like
Well,
I
no,
want
that is the purpose of the labo. That's
Yeah.
why it's a laboratory. It's because, like, in addition to the actual instructions for building the things and the program for making them work when you've built them, it also includes like instructions on like the theoretical stuff about how this works. My understanding is that a lot of it involves IR reflective tape.
Yeah, it's the reason why the IR sensors are going to be able to pick out all those different notes. It's because of the tape.
And it's like, yeah,
there's-
all this is like really, really interesting to me, but apparently I'm weird.
Once again, on its face, this concept isn't that unusual because ready-made kits, especially STEM kits, have been a thing for ages. I had a few of them growing up. I had a meteorology kit. I had a chemistry kit.
I like it was a sort of Rube Goldberg like kit with a whole bunch of gears and stuff that you could make do different things.
Yeah, the reason why this thing threw everybody off is because it's cardboard, it's video games, it's melding the two together. Like, say what you will, this is the most Nintendo idea in a long ass time. I'd say it's even more so than even like the Wii U.
Yeah.
And and of course, it being one of Nintendo's wacky gimmicks, opinions have been very fiery and divisive.
This isn't for adults. Wait a second, I'm an
well,
adult.
first
I'm
off,
interested.
A lot of people are annoyed that it's not a Smash announcement, in spite of the fact that this was specifically announced for children and people. Yeah, it's a construction / educational toy for kids. So no, it's not going to satisfy your hardcore gamers. That's what the Direct was for.
Right.
I'm shocked this wasn't announced during the Direct, but
But that
Maybe
being
weren't quite ready.
Yeah, that being said, let's be honest here. Nintendo's gimmickry hasn't always produced congruent results. It's like even ignoring the debacle that was the Wii U. The Wii's functionality. When it worked, it worked. But let's be honest, there was a lot there that didn't work, and this game, this Labo thing has been conjuring up a lot of that.
Yeah.
As like, do I think this is necessarily going to be a huge financial success? No. I'd say it might do decent, or some people just might not care for it that much. But they are at least going with the hardware proportion of this being like incredibly cheap to manufacture.
It's like some people have been balking at the price because once again, Nintendo wasn't really clear about the cardboard part of the kit.
Yeah, if it's supply your own cardboard or if it comes with it.
Yeah, well.
Oh no, the kits come with the cardboard.
Yeah, it comes with a kit, but it's like it's not Nintendo's like, and the kits run. The variety kit is $70, and the other one we haven't actually talked about, the robot kit. Yeah, so I guess we should actually talk about the robot kit for a bit here. In the
the first one has like 4 or 5 mini things. The other one is just like as much cardboard as goes into all of those things, but it's for all makes a backpack and a set of goggles and strings that go to things that your hands hold and that attach to your feet to make a like exoskeleton thing that will work with robots in the game.
Yeah, and that one's 80. Like, and I suppose one of the concerns about the Labo is like the actual games themselves. All the attention has been on the cardboard, but there was about 10 seconds of game footage in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, because yeah, when it comes to this gimmickry, you know, exactly what are the, you know, what is this software going to be? Is it going to be, you know, Wii Sports, or is it going to be Wii Play?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You know, is
or
this going to be like kind of do a thing? You know, like there's no real actual gameplay. It just like make something move, maybe make it interact with something in the environment.
right? And okay, you know, if it's a tech demo kind of thing, that actually is a bit of a concern because, you know, longevity.
Yeah, and they do say that it's supposed to have some programming teaching
Right.
in there too, so we'll see how that manifests.
Yeah.
Right. There's actually still a lot that we don't know, and that's mostly about, you know, the game part of this. You know, impressions have actually been really positive, very positive. Like Nintendo Life said, I believe one outlet said it blew their minds.
Yeah, it certainly, if nothing else, is a really creative idea that has a lot of, I would say, potential, although how much it'll live up to remains to be seen.
Indeed.
It certainly certainly beats the crap out of all those cheap plastic knickknacks they made for Wii Sports that were more expensive and probably lower quality than this cardboard. And certainly
You're not
less
wrong.
necessary. And certainly less necessary because you really don't play tennis much better just because you have like a hoop on the end of your Wiimote.
Well, yeah. Anyway, getting back to the pricing and the cardboard. Here's the thing: Nintendo's not actually, you know, yes, it's coming with the cardboard and the masking tape and all that stuff, but you know, it's not Nintendo just selling you that. That, you know, there is a game with each one of these, and guess what? That's what's costing the most of the actual money, because Nintendo will provide the cardboard patterns for free.
Oh yeah, no, we're not. Yeah, no reason. Yeah, sorry.
You know, that was an initial reaction. You know, that Nintendo was selling a cardboard box for $70.
Yeah, no one reasonable is saying that the cardboard box is going to be the $70 or $80. There is possibly some concern about them selling the game part at like full price for a game.
Or like they might sell the IR tape or whatever is needed in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, the true potentiality in this game isn't going to actually be in what Nintendo's providing, believe it or not. Oh, no. That's the actual DIY sets. You know, like, what is... Because, you know, there's fucking creative types out there that's going to... They're going to build some crazy shit.
Oh,
I don't know what it is yet.
Even if they have to hack the game open to do it, they probably will.
Again, it depends how open the programming thing is, you know.
Yeah.
We could be looking at some fucking crazy shit, or it could be just, I just made it do a different thing.
Yeah, it's like I said, I can already see the potential, like, just because I know how these people work, you know, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And scary, very, very scary.
Yeah, depending on how open it is, though.
Mm-hmm. And it's also depending on how many of these kits are going to be, because we only know about like the 2 kits right now, and those are rolling out in April. But you know, like Nintendo's probably going to roll out, you know, however many more of these. They're not going to stop at 2.
Like, I imagine they're probably going to start putting, you know, like Nintendo-themed kits together, or something like that. If this does, you know, decent.
You know, I mean, honestly, I think, you know, there were better ways of going going about the whole distribution of this, rather than, like having one game per physical cart. You have a download service.
Yeah.
It's like, you have a lot of downloadable games, and you have the patterns downloaded from the you can put on the cardboard and everything.
Yeah, I would at the very least like to see this available on the eShop for a significant discount.
So it's certainly got the people talking, for obvious reasons. But will it be a success? It could be a massive success. It could be a horrible failure. The thing of it is, the Nintendo Switch isn't really tied into this gimmick like the Wii or the Wii U was. Really, a lot of their past consoles were tied in with the whole gimmick. Because remember, like, Nintendo's launching this Labo like now, as opposed to last year, and Nintendo's been able to sell this thing as a hybrid hardcore gaming device.
Yeah, it just also happens to be able to be used for weird stuff like this.
And let's be honest. If this is kind of, I wasn't expecting this, but I was also expecting this. If that makes any sense. That is to say, Nintendo is going to Nintendo. Like, Nintendo is going to throw out offbeat, gimmicky ideas, whether you want them to or not. That's just kind of their thing. And that's that's a thing that always put me off of the whole Nintendo Switch. Like, it was very, very grounded. Probably because it needed to be. They really needed to pull themselves out of that fucking Wii U hole. But this is the Nintendo that we know and sometimes tolerate. Like I said, I'm not going to say all of their gimmicky ideas are good.
But they're interesting, and if they don't detract from other stuff, then I think there's no problem with having something like this.
Yeah, I suppose that is the other concern, because once again, going back to, say, the Wii, the Wii and the Wii U, we did have that shit. We did have their fucking gimmicks running afoul into more traditional fare. No, I'm not. I'm still fucking pissed off at Star Fox Zero. Like, that shouldn't have never fucking happened. So, the question is...
Well, it's less that it should never have happened. It's more they should have let us use a traditional control scheme if we wanted.
Well, the game was kind of built around the whole, the detached dual screen thing. Which is kind of why...
I don't think that was necessarily a terrible idea, but it also wasn't necessary, and it made the game harder to play for most people, if not everybody. So
look, the simple fact of the matter is, I'm getting at is, the Wii U on a conceptual level was bad. Like, the whole second screen thing was bad. It never worked. Or at least if it did, it was the exception and not the rule. And even going back to the Wii, the motion control worked in certain types of games. In other types of games, it was fucking intrusive, because it wasn't providing new play styles. It was providing a replacement for a perfectly suitable play style. Instead, like, replacing button pushings with random waggles was not good. So, in terms of this gimmick, will we have a Star Fox game dedicated to Labo? Nobody knows. Nobody knows how far or how deep this Labo thing will go. It's like, will they build a thing for Metroid Prime 4? I can't answer that. Only Nintendo can. Like,
Metroid Prime 4 now with cardboard arm cannon and visor that you put the Switch into.
I could actually see that. I could actually see them doing that kind of thing. I'm like, whether or not that works is another story. There's a lot of non-quantification here, because this is a very new idea. So we'll see what happens, but one thing you can be assured of is, at least in the near term, Nintendo still has a lot of hardcore credentials. And we got those with the Nintendo Direct Mini.
Segue.
Yes. You saw what I did there. I'm like, now, though this Nintendo Direct Mini was not without controversy on its own, because ports, every port in a storm. But people were rabbling over the amount of ports shown off in this Nintendo Direct Mini. I'll note, first of all, there is a difference between what the third parties will do and what the Nintendo does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'll be honest, I was actually expecting a lot more ports last year, but we're kind of getting them this year.
I am glad that if they were announcing mostly a bunch of ports, that it was to a mini. I think last year they were really trying to hit really hard on there are good original games on this, and then putting like most of the new ports of the better Wii U games off a little bit.
Well, so what Nintendo's actually doing here is pretty much like a first-party title a month. There are some exceptions, like January. There was no Nintendo title because it's fucking January.
Mm-hmm.
But like you go to next month, and that's when Bayonetta 2 is hitting, with Bayonetta 1, and then the month after that, Kirby Star Allies are hitting.
Oh man, Curbs.
Nintendo wants to keep a software chain going because they don't want another Wii U situation, or even 3DS. Hey, remember, instead of having ports, you had nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yeah, the first year of the 3DS was really rough.
Yeah.
So,
the most of Wii U was really rough.
Hence why the ambassador program was a thing.
yeah. The point is, Nintendo would rather have the ports than have the nothing, because the nothing hurts.
Right.
And yeah, I get that Wii U owners are in a huff because they already bought these games. Here's the thing: not too many people bought Wii U's.
Yeah, I had a Wii U, and I'm still going to be rebuying Hyrule Warriors probably, because maybe this time. Well, it does have the 2-player, and this time I think they said this time it should have no trouble loading enough dudes like the 3DS version did.
Well, Hyrule Warriors is called the Definitive Edition.
Right.
Because, it's got all the DLC. It's got new DLC, the Breath of the Wild suits.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's got the power of the Switch behind it, which, remember, is more powerful than the Wii U. So...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was a problem with Hyrule Warriors 2-player mode on the Wii U and any play on the 3DS. It had trouble loading as many enemies as there were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And the choices made here made sense for the system. See also Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Once again, not a new game, but here's the thing: not a lot of people bought Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It sold like less than 1 million, like I think about 700,000 or so. When the Donkey Kong Country Returns game on the Wii sold more than the entire Metroid Prime trilogy. The thing is, there was definitely an audience for Tropical Freeze. It didn't find it on the Wii U. That's more on the Wii U.
Yeah, and the Tropical Freeze was, lest we repeat ourselves, a really, really solid, good platformer.
Mm-hmm.
That deserves a good audience.
Yeah, some it's considered actually to be one of the best platformers ever made. I personally never played it, so I can't vouch for that. But it's definitely considered to be a high point of the Wii U's library.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow spawned a meme out of that funky mode.
Yep.
No, I don't understand it. But yeah, though I will note, not everything Nintendo showed off there was a port. Like the big new game that was shown off was Mario Tennis Aces. That's mainly
Which,
because
on the other hand, yeah, I'm gonna say that I am very. I mean, I'm not super big into playing sports games, but I'm still really glad to see a new Mario Tennis game that looks like it had effort and interesting gameplay stuff
Yeah.
planned for
The
it.
less we talk about the
Because the
most recent
last-
one was, oh
Right.
god,
The
what did you
the-
do, Nintendo?
Right. The recent Mario sports games have been pretty uninspired and just not that good.
Mhm.
Likewise, Mario Party. So here's hoping for that.
Yeah.
Well, isn't
Uh,
like the Mega Mix or whatever coming out soon for the 3DS?
I think that might already be the one that's just like, oh, hey, here's a sort of Mario Party thing. And also it has like all top 100 mini games from every Mario Party game ever.
Something like that, yeah. It's either out or coming out soon or whatever. I don't feel like pulling up my 3DS to look.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, the big draw with Mario Tennis Aces is a story mode.
Right.
The first one since the Game Boy Advance tennis game.
Man, I don't even know. I think there was one that wasn't on that one, but that one was weird because that one was just like a full-on RPG except with tennis.
That was the Game Boy Color one. I believe.
Oh, right, gotcha. Never mind, you're right. I had my Game Boys with color graphics crossed.
Hold on, an RPG with tennis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, go watch the Ant Dude video on that.
Okay then.
Nothing new.
Anyway, yeah. And yeah, also the other really new game is Kirby Star Allies. It's actually odd to see Kirby, a proper Kirby game this early in a system's life.
Yeah. On the other hand, nice to see you again, Gim. Sorry,
Indeed.
I really like the yo-yo power.
And then it's gone.
Imagine, it's like it's looking like. As far as my disappointment is, it's looking like every other Kirby game that's come out post Return to Dreamland.
Yeah, it doesn't have quite as much of an imaginative theme, I guess, as Robobot did, where they had the whole everything is being mechanized,
Mm-hmm.
and
Or,
also you have a robot.
Yeah.
However, this one does seem to be running really hard on teamwork and combining powers, which at least promises to be better integrated into level designs than the superpowers from Return to Dreamland and the Supernova from Triple Deluxe were.
Also, I imagine that Knock and Ogre might do a Let's Play on this one, given the teamwork angle.
Well, duh.
And I'm also glad that it's not just you can play as Meta Knight Day to Day or Bandana Waddle Dee. It's hey, we get to play as helpers again, which was always one of my favorite parts of games that had the helpers in them. Which is mostly Superstar and Ultra, but I don't care.
Indeed. And there were also some updates for current games, like Donkey Kong is coming to Mario and Rabbids. Like,
could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a new mode coming to Super Mario Odyssey, the hide and seek mode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Balloon World or Balloon Hunt. Anyway, that I actually think. I mean, it's not super my thing, but I think it really plays to one of the strengths of Mario Odyssey, which is its world and level design, and you can take advantage of that. I mean, it takes advantage of, or people who really know the level design will be best at that, which the game has level design that's worth learning.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's going to be DLC for Pokken Tournament Deluxe. No one here, I believe, plays Pokken Tournament, so.
Nope.
Yeah, I still need to decide whether or not I ever want to get. I got it for the Wii U, but I literally never played it. and I am not good at highly technical fighting games, but it does seem cool. So
Yeah, this is why Gulix is dreading us reviewing Fighter Z or Fighters or whatever it is.
yeah,
Like, anyway,
I'm
so
decent at party fighting, but technical fighters, I'm like, I can't Shoryuken even. So
it's a quarter circle. It's not hard to do.
no, the Hadoken is a quarter circle. The Shoryuken is left down to down left. Excuse me,
Yeah.
towards down to down towards.
I think I'm seeing why you have problems with that. Anyway, so the big third-party ports announced were The World Ends With You Final Remix. I know a lot of people are excited about this one. I am not, and I'll tell you why. Because more than any other game out there, The World Ends With You, the original one from 2008, kind of used all the features of the DS.
Yeah,
including-
to both screens, the fact that you can close the system.
Yeah, and like the iOS port did not capture the quintessence of that game at all. It's like, and I am concerned about that on the Nintendo Switch because, well, the Nintendo Switch, yeah, has the Joy-Con thing going on, but once again, it doesn't have the feature set that either the DS or the 3DS has. And that actually does matter to this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it may be better. I mean, it probably won't be worse than the iOS port.
Probably
But
not.
yeah, there is reason to be concerned about that, but might be
Yeah.
a little bit optimistic. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, I suppose we'll see how it works out, because like the big thing was the two screens, because you were playing two characters on one on each screen. Now,
Yeah, how did they? Yeah, I thought so. How did they do that on the iOS one?
they didn't. That's my
So
point.
they just cut out the other controller character you're playing as.
More or less, yeah. It's been a while, but yeah, it was. Yeah, they called it Solo Mix on iOS. So yeah, it kind of epically missed the point.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes because, well, that's. I mean, I was always a big fan of having two screens anyway, just because that's how my head works.
Mm-hmm.
He says, looking at his two desktop screens, each with 3 windows open. It's easier to compartmentalize things into a different screen, although it didn't work as well on the Wii U because the thing was further away. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Dark Souls shouldn't have any problems though.
Yeah, no. So Dark Souls Remastered was probably the biggest showpiece of this entire Nintendo Direct Mini. I'll be honest, I have never played a Dark Souls game. I have the first one. I've just never gotten around to playing it.
Also, I don't remember if they ripped out Windows or Games for Windows Live out of that yet. Or if
No,
you
they
have to
did.
do
They
it.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
They did that long ago.
Well, because they still never did it for, or Bethesda never did it for Fallout 3.
That's Bethesda, different companies.
I know, it's
Yeah.
just some people didn't, some people did.
Well, I can say Dark Souls was one of those games that got that taken out. Like, yeah, so Dark Souls is finally hitting a Nintendo platform. A lot of people are excited about this. You know, I think the Muppet Arlo talked about the whole portability aspect of game coming to the Nintendo Switch, and this one's really emphasizing that because a lot of people are excited about playing Dark Souls on the go.
Yeah, you're not
Mhm.
getting like a shitty iOS version that has like, maybe PS2 graphics and touch controls. You have a
Yeah.
real controller and decent graphics.
Yeah,
And they said that the performance is supposed to be as good or better. So
yeah. Well, when you get down to it, Dark Souls is a last-gen game, and the Nintendo Switch has enough horsepower to play last-gen games with no problems. Something that the Wii, well, that I think was more a thing of architecture, but the point is, yeah, Dark Souls Remastered shouldn't have a problem playing on the Nintendo Switch. Like, and it's also, keep in mind, Dark Souls has never been in the Nintendo ecosystem either. I
Right.
find this much less egregious than what they're doing on PC. It's like they're charging people who have the original Dark Souls $20. The regular price is $40. I'm like,
Mhm.
I guess I wouldn't find that so offensive if THQ Nordic hadn't been giving me the remastered versions of their games for fucking free.
Mm-hmm.
I know different companies, but yeah, $20 is not that good of a discount.
Well, it depends what all they've done. If it's just better graphics, eh. But if they've actually added more content to it, then maybe.
Let's see. You got East 8, Larkamosa of Dana coming. Uh, First time the East series has been on the Nintendo system since East 5, if I'm remembering correctly,
Yeah.
which was the
And this is one of
Super-
those RPG series that's significantly more popular in Japan and has barely been over here, if I recall correctly.
Well,
Well, until recently. Like,
recently they've been coming out a lot on Steam.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I think Steam has all of them except like the 4 remake and 5 I don't think has appeared outside of the Super NES. Um, Secret East 5 almost killed the series.
Yeah, so the less said about that, the better.
Yeah, but yeah, East 8. I recall Falcom saying they weren't sure about the Switch, but here's the thing: this is such a case of money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Switch is on pace to possibly beating the PS2.
Yeah, they may be selling 20 million copies this year
Yeah.
of the Switch. That's kind of where that Labo thing comes in. Like the Labo is broadening the audience fair.
Yeah,
Um,
it's also, hey, we're getting a lot more money than we expected. Let's do something cool.
Yeah. So anyway, the big original game that was announced was SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, which is actually a sequel to a Neo Geo Pocket game called Gal Fighters. It's the same idea.
It's exactly what it seems like. It's an SNK versus or style fighting game with female characters from SNK games.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, expect lots of costumes, probably a lot of fan service, given SNK and all that.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's SNK, of course there's going to be fan service.
Payday 2 got a release date of February 27th.
That's
not-
another game that's a little bit off
Yeah.
the traditional Nintendo brand, let's
Yeah,
say. But
Also,
I, mean,
I believe Payday was best enjoyed online, so that's probably might not be the best experience on the Switch.
I mean, unless they get their online ducks in order before that.
Well, it's also Payday 2 on like the Xbox is complete shit. So I don't have high hopes for the Switch version. And let's see.
Well, it probably won't be too much worse. It's just
Yeah.
Who
Let's
knows?
see. Indie Games Faye from our friends over at Zoink Games. If you remember, we did an interview them last year about Faye and Flipping Death.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've been considering asking them back on the program, but it's like we've kind of already talked about these games. I don't like talking about games twice
Yeah.
because
It's hard to find stuff to talk about.
yeah. Unless like a significant amount of development time has passed, and then, it's like.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Faye is coming out February 16th. Celeste from Matt Makes Games is coming out January 25th. Trying to remember. Yeah, Celeste is from the maker of like Towerfall. If anyone has played that.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that's it from the actual content of the Nintendo Direct Mini. As I said, there's actually quite a bit packed in here, especially if you look beyond the big stuff. It's just, yeah, most of the big stuff was ports. Which is not, once again, it's not a bad thing because,
Yeah, it's not like they're porting terrible bottom of the barrel stuff. They're porting like some of the good games from the Wii U that nobody ever really had, or some games that have not been on Nintendo systems before.
It's also, this isn't Nintendo's full year schedule. This is their up to E3 schedule from the looks of things.
Yeah, presumably they will have a real direct at some point, or at the very least, they will be E3, and then they will announce like more big stuff.
I imagine there's going to be a direct closer to Labo's launch.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm about to say. If we're going to get another Nintendo Direct, it's probably going to be on the Labo concept.
So I'm expecting late March, early April.
Possibly sooner. Like with Nintendo, we could see it as soon as February. Given that this Nintendo Direct jumped out of nowhere, this fucking Labo thing came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it could be at any time. It could be at no time.
Yeah. They could just kind of plop it out in April, like, here you go.
Yeah. I'm like, you just have to keep your eyes peeled. All right, then. I think that'll do it for this round of Fragments of Silicon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once again, there is no MSP. No MSP for a while, actually.
Yeah, MSPs, I think the plan is that it will come back at the same time that our next season starts.
Yes.
Godspeed.
Anyway, the road ahead coming up this Sunday, we have 3 reviews. It's been a busy week. We're going to finally get around to reviewing 9 Parchments. I mentioned previously that had some problems with 9 Parchments. There was this really problematic bug that gave a rendering error. That actually got fixed a couple weeks ago. It's just I pushed it down the queue to give them ample time to fix that. Mm-hmm. So it's working now. I think everyone here can run it. So we're going to be doing a multiplayer session on that on Friday. Mm-hmm. We'll announce the time on Friday. Yeah. Let's see. We've also got a game called Escape Close Call. I guess I can best describe this as a vehicle survival game. You play as, I guess, a crook. You're trying to escape the cops. You gotta last in this arena for 10 minutes. Spoiler alert, you're not able to last 10 minutes at the beginning. You got to build up your skills in order to do that. It's more fun than I expected, but it's also not that interesting of a game. More on that on Sunday. And finally, we'll be having Bridge Constructor Portal. Now, I've actually reviewed one of the Bridge Constructor games back a couple of years. It was definitely during the audio-only days.
Uh-huh.
And
these are games where you're literally building bridges to certain specifications using various materials and then running a truck over them to see if it collapses, correct?
Yeah, and this is Portal branded. And more on that on Sunday. So until then, I wish you good gaming.